Guys, I just picked up Monster Hunter Wilds and I thought it'd be a good idea for me to upload my initial impressions of the game so far. So far, I've spent around 9 hours with the game, a couple of long sessions with it. I've got a pretty good idea about how I feel about the game so far, and just to give you a heads up though, I'm no like some Monster Hunter expert. I've not been playing the games for 10 years or anything. There's plenty of people like that out there. I'm relatively new to the Monster Hunter games. I started on Monster Hunter World and I've only played Rise after it, so this is technically only my third Monster Hunter game so far. Let me just start off by saying that I feel like if you are a fan of the Monster Hunter games and you've been a fan of them for years on end, you're probably going to love every single thing about Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it does its job at appealing to the fans of the Monster Hunter series. When it comes to people like myself though, I feel like this is a really unique series that's very hard to judge. Like I say, I've only played 3 games so far. My first one was Monster Hunter World. And I can honestly say, I loved everything about that game when I first played it. I done everything in it from start to finish in the base game, and I came away from the game feeling like I had a really unique experience that I couldn't really get anywhere else. Obviously along comes Monster Hunter Rise a couple of years later, the next game in the series, and I picked it up day one. I was relatively excited for the game, and I'll be honest, I never finished it. The reason I never finished it is because it just felt too samey to Monster Hunter World. There wasn't enough reason to go through what the game was asking of me this time because it kind of felt like a bit of a chore. I mean, at the end of the day, the way the game works is you kill monsters, you get gear, you kill monsters, you get gear, to kill better monsters and get gear. It's a very repetitive loop. So that's one of the reasons why I never actually finished Monster Hunter Rise. I think the repetitiveness of what the gameplay is at a base level kind of just left me feeling a bit burned out, that I'd actually already beaten this game a couple of years before. At least that's what it felt like to me, you know? Fast forward until now and Monster Hunter Wilds is finally here, and how do I feel about this game so far? Almost the exact same way as I felt about Rise. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still exactly the same gameplay as what's in Monster Hunter World and what's in Monster Hunter Rise, and that is like one of my major issues with Monster Hunter as a whole, is I just feel like the gameplay is far too repetitive for me to keep enjoying. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying, for someone who's like new to the franchise and expecting new things like every entry, I don't think that's what Monster Hunter is, and that's why I say it's very hard to judge, or like definitely no calling them bad games whatsoever. I don't think that. I think like they are enjoyable, very good games to chill out with and play with your friends, and they're farming games, you know, and you can find joy in just chilling out and farming with games like this. But I think for myself, I've kind of like reached that part where I don't think Monster Hunter is necessarily for me because of the fact that the games are so similar to the previous ones that came out, and there's no that much that separates them, you know. They are still all farming games at the end of the day, and they all result in you killing monsters, getting gear, killing monsters to get more gear, and that's how it goes. And trust me when I say, when the next Monster Hunter comes out, it'll be exactly the same as this game, and it's whether that's for you. And like I say, with Monster Hunter World, I absolutely loved the experience. Why? Because it was the first time I had the experience. So I feel like for veterans of the series, you absolutely love Monster Hunter, and nothing's going to change that. You'll keep playing all the games and enjoy them with your friends, whatever it is. And then I think there's people like myself that's in the category of where we find them a little bit repetitive and we don't know how much longer we can keep playing the same game. Don't get me wrong, so many games out there are similar, but at the end of the day, there's something about Monster Hunter that really feels like it's just that extra bit repetitive sometimes to myself. And I think for somebody who's not played a Monster Hunter game, if Wilds is going to be your first experience with a Monster Hunter game, I think you will actually enjoy it. So, because you've not had an experience like it before, it's a very unique experience. The question will be whether you enjoy that same experience 2 or 3 games down the line. Because I know for me right now, I definitely don't think I do. It's no like I don't have fun with the games. I still have fun killing monsters, but I find myself getting fed up chasing them just to kill them 5 minutes later down the line. It's all reaching that boiling point where I'm like, I think I'd maybe rather be playing something else. And that's no to knock the series. It's no to upset anyone. I think there's a lot of people that probably feel similar to me about it. As far as I'm concerned, the gameplay is as good as it ever was. I think it's better than it was in the beta, and I think that's because they've added more hit stun to the weapons, so it really feels like you're actually hitting the monsters. Apparently they removed that in the beta. I remember feeling like there was something wrong with the combat when I first played the beta. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and then people came along and said it was the hit stun that had been removed. Well, I think they've put that back in the full game because it really feels like you're actually hitting the monsters again, and that is a very satisfying feeling. So the combat's as good as it's ever been as far as I'm concerned. Now, one area in all three of the Monster Hunter games that I don't ever think has been like a standout point is the story, and unfortunately I think it carries forward to Monster Hunter Wilds here. The story is just no good, it's no remotely interesting. I hope it's interesting to some people out there, but I kind of just feel like it gets in the way of the gameplay. And in this game, they have added something that really just like bugs me a little bit. It's no killing me right now, but there's walking and talking segments in this Monster Hunter game, and it just like ruins the flow of the battle. And I feel like if they're going to put so much emphasis on the story and making you watch it, they could at least make a really good story for the games. I refuse to believe that modern day Capcom that make all these great games cannot think of like a really good story for Monster Hunter. I refuse to believe it. And I think they could do better, because you shouldn't want to just get to the combat of the game, you should want to get engrossed into the world, and I just don't feel that way watching the story of this game. I can honestly say this, there's something that bugs me that they removed from Monster Hunter World, and that was when you were hunting the monsters, you went around and got clues about the monster, then it would actually show you where the monster was on the map. And the later games haven't done this. When the monster just appears, he's just there on the map and there's no clues to go find or anything. And I feel like maybe that does get in the way of the battles. I don't know how other people feel about it, but for me, that done a better job of getting me into the world than anything the story has done of Monster Hunter Wilds here so far. And I honestly really miss that mechanic. Now, I'll be honest, this next point I was going to make here, like a lot of people kind of feel this way about Monster Hunter Wilds at the moment in time, but you know, personally, I've never really felt like Monster Hunter was like a good looking video game series. Personally, I know I'm not gonna like catch some flack for that, but I never really thought like the graphics were anything special in the series. But with this game, they're a bit extra worse than they were before. So like, it's kind of like catching a lot of people's eyes now to the point they can't really ignore it. Personally, when it came to Monster Hunter Worlds and I played that game on PC, that was the first game that I played on my PC back in the day that made it reach 100% CPU usage. The Monster Hunter games really don't look that amazing for being as graphically demanding as what they are. And I feel like that is a bad balance that they have, you know? I really wish that Capcom would make a good looking game that ran well. You know, I really don't understand the reasoning why the requirements are so high for the Monster Hunter games when the games genuinely look pretty ugly. And, you know, a lot of people do agree with Wilds. I said it in the beta. I feel like the first area that you roam around, the desert, is just a terrible like first level to be in, and it gives people a really bad impression because like the colors are muted everywhere. It's very brown, it's very grey. You know, like the second area is at least a little bit better because you're in a forest, but it's still pretty dim. So overall, I don't really think like the graphical style is that impressive of Wilds. The colours don't really pop. In the previous games, the colours did pop a little bit, even though the graphics weren't amazing, but here in this game, the graphics just don't stand out, and to me it's a real shame. Overall though, I feel like if you can get past the graphical issues of the game, and you can immerse yourself into the world, and you are like a long-time fan of Monster Hunter, you'll absolutely be loving the game so far already. And if you're somebody who's never played a Monster Hunter game, I feel like you will still get into this game. But I feel like if you're someone like myself, maybe the series is kind of like running its course a little bit. There's not a lot of incentive to keep sticking around. If you guys have something to share about your time so far with Monster Hunter Wilds, be sure to let me know below, and I'll catch you in the next one,